Hi, I wanted to take a moment to welcome Jennifer Rudin. She's the Injury Prevention Program Lead and Safe Kids Greater Sacramento Coalition Coordinator at Dignity Health Mercy San Juan Medical Center. She has delivered community safety education in this position for 8 years, and prior to this served as public health officer at the Cosumnes Fire Department for 7 years. She is also the current board president for Rebuilding Together Sacramento and a master trainer for the A Matter of Balance Fall Prevention Program. Welcome to you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Simone, and thank you all for attending today. It's so nice to be with you. Like Christine shared, I work for Mercy San Juan Medical Center. We're the Dignity Health Hospital up here in Carmichael, the northern part of Sacramento County. And if you're in the West Sacramento area, our closest facility for you is our friends over at Woodland Memorial Hospital. It's also a Dignity Health Hospital. So we've got 6 hospitals here in our Sacramento service area. So it's so nice to be with you all today and to share a little bit about fall prevention with you. So my job is injury prevention, and I am employed because Mercy San Juan is a trauma center, which means that you'll come to see us when you're ill, but also if you're injured. And that's a specialty area of medicine and treating injuries, traumatic injuries. And we're so glad that we have our wonderful trauma staff here to help you if you do get injured. But my job is to prevent those injuries before they happen, to go out and share information with the community to make sure that we can prevent those injuries from ever happening in the first place. And so you might ask me, common question I get is, Jennifer, are fall injuries preventable? Are falls preventable? Because when we hear about a friend or family member that has had a fall, just hearing something like she fell or they had an accident, that's something that's going to have a huge impact on all of us when we hear about it, and especially on the independence and mobility of that person that had a fall. So we all know somebody that's had a fall, and the answer is yes, those injuries are largely preventable. So why do we think of them as something that's inevitable, right? All older adults have a fall. It happens to everybody, but we really can prevent it before it occurs. So let's go through some of the ways we can do that. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about the definition of a fall, what are some of our risk factors and how that plays into our fear of falling, and then some of the action steps that we can take. We really do have a lot of power when it comes to preventing falls. So let's talk about what we can do individually. So what do I mean by a fall? I mean landing on the ground or some lower surface when you didn't intend to. That's a fall. That includes slips and trips and accidents that cause us to fall. Things that we don't cause a fall would be when somebody else bumps into us, right? Somebody else comes along on the scooter and knocks us over. That wasn't really our fault, but something where we are falling, that's what we consider to be a fall. We don't necessarily have to land on the ground. It could be that just we fell back into the chair. It also doesn't need to include an injury. There are a lot of falls that don't cause an injury, but we did have a fall. That was something that happened. So just wanted to give us a little definition there. All right, so when we get asked this question, what should we say? And you might notice that your doctor is asking you this question more often. A lot of healthcare organizations have now made this part of their protocol to start asking this. And they ask me too, it's not just you. It doesn't mean that you are looking a certain way that day or you've turned a certain age. They're asking a lot of us, have you had a fall? So here's what they want to know about that. Have you had a fall in the past year? Did you talk to anybody about it? Were you injured? And then some of those questions might lead us into further questions. Do we worry about falling? Are we feeling unsteady when we're standing or walking? And one of the main reasons they ask this is a previous fall does increase our future fall risk. So I know when they start asking us questions like this, it can be a little nerve-wracking or thinking, oh gosh, I'm getting up there in years, but they are asking us for a reason when we go to the doctor. So as we go through this presentation today, I'd love for you to think about some of these questions and how they've impacted you in recent years. All right. You noticed in there, one of the questions we asked was, do you have any fear of falling? And so what does that mean? If I ask you, are you afraid of falling? A lot of people will say, no, I'm not afraid, I'm just more careful. But let's dig into that a little bit. Fear of falling is a lasting concern about falling that may cause a person to stop doing the activities that they are still able to do, but they're afraid of doing. And that's a concern, right? What we want for each other, what I want for my friends and family is for you to be able to do the things you enjoy doing, for you to be independent, for you to go out and have fun and do the things that you want to do. So a fear of falling, we notice that can impact our life when it starts restricting those things that we enjoy doing or that we want to do. And in fact, we're going to talk about how that fear of falling can actually increase our future fall risk. So why does that fear of falling matter? What's so important about that? Like I mentioned, it might stop you from doing the things that you enjoy. And that's what we want to avoid, right? We want to have a great quality of life, especially if you've retired, you have earned it. You have earned this free time to be able to do the things you enjoy. So let's make sure you can. The other thing is, often when we are afraid of falls, we think, let me stay right here in my favorite chair and I will be safe. Because out there, that's where I had a fall, or that's where my friend had a fall. So let me just stay right here. But the problem with that inactivity is that it can cause our legs to weaken, our muscles to break down, for us to become stiff and weak. And that can then increase our risk of a fall. So it's kind of a vicious cycle, right? One thing leads to another. So if we are staying still, we're going to stay still. If we stay in motion, we're going to stay in motion. That applies to our bodies as well as objects, right? So that inactivity can lead to that increased fall risk. And then we begin limiting our activities, then we begin staying home more. And that can cause us to cut down on our social interactions, and that may make us feel alone. Now, this year, we are certainly dealing with this different circumstance, aren't we? How we were asked to stay home more often. And so for those of us at the hospitals, that really made us a little nervous, because we thought, oh gosh, this is the opposite of what we've been encouraging everyone to do. Everyone's being asked to stay home. So we've really had to be creative in how we encourage everyone to keep moving, which we can talk more about in a moment. But again, limiting your social interactions, that can cause us to be depressed and can cause us to feel alone, which again can increase our fall risk through our depression and anxiety. So that cycle, that's what we want to break, of being afraid of falls, and that causes us to not be active. All right. So we know that a fear of falling is a risk factor for all of us, but what are our other risk factors? Fall prevention is really interesting. It's unlike a lot of other medical issues. You know, sometimes when there's a medical issue like the coronavirus, we got vaccine for it, we can give you 1 or 2 shots in the arm. Falls are not like that. There's a whole lot of factors that go into putting us at risk for falls. And so what are some of those risk factors? First, we've got our physical risk factors, and those are the changes in our body that increase our risk for a fall. That happens over the years as we age, and it could also be things like inactivity or lower muscle strength that has happened from our inactivity. We've also got behavioral risk factors, things that we do or don't do that increase our fall risk. And these could be taking risks, things like climbing a ladder to get the leaves out of the gutter or put up those Christmas lights. So there are choices that we make that increase or don't increase our fall risk. And we've also got environmental risk factors. What are those hazards around the home? Things that might be causing us to fall. Something like if you've got some steps going up into your front door that don't have a handrail to hold on to, or if we've got maybe some clutter around the house, or if your bathtub doesn't have a grab bar nearby to help you get in and out, those could be environmental risk factors. And we've all got our unique combo, right? We are all unique individuals. Just for an example, I'll give you my risk factors for a fall. So I have some weak ankles for a lot of years of dance class, ballet class, kind of beat up my ankles over the years. That's one of my risk factors. Also, my vision is not wonderful at night. I had some eye surgery a couple years ago and it made my vision pretty great, but at night I still get, everything looks kind of a little blurrier. And then my environmental risk factors would be stairs. I live in a 2-story home and I work in a 2-story office. So I'm going up and down stairs all day. So that's one of my environmental risk factors. And my behavioral risk factor would be whether or not I hold on to that railing on the stairs. So we're all unique. We've got our own unique combo. And I would love to hear from you. If you want to, you can put in the chat to Christine, just real short, just a little bullet point. What do you think are some risk factors that you or your friends and family have experienced? What are some of those risk factors for you? It could be physical or behavioral or environmental. It's always interesting to hear what everybody else is seeing out in the community along the way. I'll give you can put those into the chat for Christine and maybe she can share if she hears any risk factors that you guys can share with her. Let me give you an example for my mom. She's in my family. I talk to her every day, so I know what her risk factors are. She's got a bum knee. Her right knee is just not trustworthy after years of gymnastics. Not trustworthy, we call that knee. And then behavioral risk factors, I would say she would admit that carrying so many things in from the car at once, tries to bring in all the groceries. And we say, hey mom, take 2 trips. So that would be a behavioral risk factor. Environmental risk factor, she's done pretty good around the house with making the house be a good fit, but I would say one environmental risk factor for her would be throw rugs. She loves a throw rug. And we have a little saying that throw rugs can throw you. So that would be an environmental risk factor that we've had some conversations about. So
we have a comment that talked about weight gain and weak core muscles.
Yeah, I mean, a core is a great thing to work on. And our bodies do change over time. So we've got to learn how that impacts our fall risk.
So we had a second comment that talked about a father who had a fan fall off its stool. It made a loud noise and caused the father to jump out of bed. And of course, in that moment, he forgot he had to use his walker, which caused a fall. So it was a combination there. Yeah,
jumping out of bed or jumping out of the chair, right? We hear that a lot too. I jumped up to answer the phone or answer the door. So yeah, those rushing or not taking our time can be an old habit that dies hard. So those certainly are risk factors. Thank you guys for chiming in.
One more, sorry. We have a dementia, like having dementia and thinking you have balance, and when you stand up by yourself, speeding up when you walk, and not, they don't know that they're taking that risk.
Certainly, yeah. If we are not able to understand the changes that our bodies have had, or not able to remember that the changes and implement those changes in our routine, that can be dangerous as well. Good point. Okay. So the good news is, I don't want to leave you with all bad news. We've got a lot of good news here. The good news is there are a longer list of things we can change than the things we can't. So Unfortunately, we can't change our age. We've got, unless we've got a time machine. We do move forward each day, which is great. We also can't change our gender, knowing that women do have a high risk of falls due to bone health and some other factors. Also, there may be different risks among different ethnicities, especially when related to other medical conditions. So there are some things we can't change. But the good news is there's a whole bunch of things we can change. That physical inactivity, I am not going to go run a marathon tomorrow. That's not going to happen. But I can be a little more active tomorrow than I was today. We can also change our home environment. We can clean up some of that clutter around the house, and later we'll talk about some resources for making some of those home improvements to help us get around the house. And we're going to go in a little more in depth into each one of these. We can make sure our vision, our prescriptions are up to date. We can watch our medications, and we can work on that fear of falling and social isolation. And hopefully increasing our activity will help us with weakness. And we can also be better at using our assistive devices. We can learn how to use those properly from someone like a physical therapist or an occupational therapist, and make sure to use those tools that are there for us. All right, so what can we do to prevent falls? This, I'll tell you, this bullet point cracks me up. we received some of these talking points from some national associations that I'll tell you about in a moment. But they said to exercise to improve your balance and strength, it takes 50 hours every 6 months. Friends, I do not know how much 50 hours every 6 months is. I did some math for you. That works out to about 25 to 30 minutes a day. So if we can, let's try to get in that 25 to 30 minutes a day of exercise. What do I mean by exercise? Does that mean I'm going to be wearing some spandex, jumping up and down? Oh heavens, that's not me. It can look a little different for everyone. Exercise can be something as simple as going for a walk. It doesn't have to be particularly formal or in a gym or something like that. It can be going for a walk, going for a light swim, taking a walk with friends, just doing those simple things to get out and get some exercises. And we're going to go into each of these 3 topics a little more in depth. All right, so exercise recommendations. First, I would ask that you please check in with your doctor before starting an exercise program. We don't want to go too far into something new and then injure ourselves and get discouraged, and that can kind of set us back. So let's make sure to check with our doctor before we start a new exercise program, and they might be able to talk with us about what types of exercise might be good for us. That can be an interesting conversation because a lot of us have something that we used to do, right? I mentioned that I used to go to dance class. If I went to one of those today, I might not make it all the way through the class. I would need to think a little differently now about how I exercise. Your exercise method throughout your life might have been something like playing baseball or taking a long run or playing tennis. And some of those things we can do in a modified way, but we also might want to ask what type of exercise is best for us now and take into consideration any other medical conditions we have going on. And we might be able to start with something like physical therapy or a fall prevention class that includes some real mild exercise to help us work up towards that 25 to 30 minutes a day. There are a lot of classes out there for adults. I think it can be intimidating to think, well, if you're telling me to exercise, I'm going to go join a gym and I'm going to be in a class with a bunch of real young folks jumping up and down. And that doesn't sound like it's going to be fun for me because those aren't my peers. There are a lot of great classes out there that are just for adults or older adults. And right now during the pandemic, there's even some online classes just for older adults. I know here in the Sacramento area, folks like the Senior Center of Elk Grove or ACC Senior Services, they've all got online classes just for older adults that are really fun. So be a little creative, take a look out there. I would say, you know, shout out to Christine and a lot of our local government folks. Almost all of the parks and recreation departments have exercise classes just for older adults. They're really good about offering that stuff. I love our parks and rec districts. So check those out. And then if we can, we want to try and stick with it to make it a commitment, to make it a part of our routine. That's tough too, isn't it? Sticking with it, sticking with something new. We can go to the class once or twice and think, ooh, you know, high five to myself. But to really make that difference in our health, we've got to stick with it and do it on a regular basis. All right. So that's another thing I'd love to hear in the chat. If you have anything you would be willing to share with your neighbors, do you know any, let's go back a slide. Do you know any exercise classes in the West Sacramento or surrounding areas that are just for older adults? Have you been to one that you really liked at Parks and Rec or at a senior center or somewhere else? Is there something you'd want to share with your neighbors? Understanding it might be closed right now during shutdown, but hopefully we'll be open soon. So yeah, if you've been to one you really love that you would want to share with your neighbors, you can put that in the chat. I know I'll share here, our hospital is here in Citrus Heights, and there's a senior center right next to the library. And the senior center has chair exercise, and it's great because you can go drop off your books at the library, you can go to exercise class and go get your new books on the way out. It's really fun.
So we have a really great resource on here. Sounds exciting. It's called Rocksteady Boxing.
Oh, boxing sounds like a fun option. I've never done that before, so I don't know too much about that, but sounds interesting.
It's great for PD patients.
Okay.
Silver Sneakers at 24-Hour Fitness.
Yeah, and that's a great idea too, to make sure to ask your doctor and your health insurance if they offer any sort of discounts or memberships to exercise classes.
If anyone in here is from West Sacramento, the Recreation Center also does have, offers the Silver Fit discount.
Good stuff. Okay. Yeah, and that's something we can keep putting in the chat as we go, because that's always good for your neighbors. Okay, so we're gonna get our body going. We're gonna get up, we're gonna get moving, we're gonna keep moving. How can we make sure our environment moves with us as well? We've got our homes that age. Did you know your home ages just like our bodies? Our homes do age, and sometimes they need repairs over time, but also sometimes our homes just need to adjust to age with us. If we've been in our home for 30 years, our bodies and our needs are different than they were when we moved in. And so sometimes we've got to do some little adjusting, and think of it as redecorating, right? Your home probably doesn't look exactly like it did 30 years ago. So in style and, you know, decoration flavor. So our home safety needs to be the same way. It needs to adjust to fit our style now. And so we want to identify and try to eliminate some of those fall hazards in our homes. And I would really recommend this Check for Safety brochure. This is something from the CDC STEADI Program, which I'm going to send you a link to when we're done here, or Simone will. And it's got a great home safety checklist that you can go around the house and look for things that might cause some of those home safety risks. The big one I always love to talk about, of course, is the bathroom. We see a lot of folks that have fallen in the bathroom because it is slippery in there, because we go in there multiple times a day. So we want to make sure we've got things like grab bars to help us get in and out of the bath and shower, that we've got a non-skid mat in there, not a rug that's going to slide around, and some of those things. So I used to work at the fire department, and trying to get 4 big firefighters in the bathroom to pick us up is not the most not the most glamorous experience. They'll do it if we need it, but we'd rather stay steady in the bathroom as well. So, all right, so I highly recommend checking that out and then making that part of your could even be your spring cleaning or your home projects while we're all stuck at home, to do that home safety checklist. Okay, so another category of things to watch out for is medications and fall risk. There are some medications out there that can make us dizzy or unsteady or even sleepy. And so if you are experiencing some of those side effects from medications, that is a great thing to tell your doctor. If you're thinking, why am I feeling this way? You might want to think about, have you had any changes to your medication recently? That could be something as simple as a change in the dosage or a change in what time of day you take it, or a different medicine altogether. So if any of that is happening, we want to talk to our doctor. We can also talk to our pharmacist about that. A pharmacist is a great person to speak to because they can see your entire list of medications there that might be prescribed by a couple different doctors. They can take a look at that whole list and see if there's any of those that might be working against each other or causing side effects. Medicines are supposed to help us, right? But if they're causing side effects that are going to cause us to fall, let's talk to our doctor about that. And doctor as well as our pharmacist. I know I work for Dignity Health, but my mom is a Kaiser member, and she actually has a geriatric pharmacist that is assigned to check in with her periodically and review her whole list of medications, which is really helpful. I would also mention that when we say medications, I don't just mean things prescribed by your doctor. This includes over-the-counter items as well, things you can just buy in the store without a prescription, such as herbal remedies or over-the-counter medicines, things for allergies or painkillers or any of those categories. You'd want to share with your doctor and pharmacist all of the things that you're taking, so they can include that in the whole picture of medicines that you take. All right, so I mentioned this in my personal fall risks, vision and fall risks. Our annual eye exams are recommended, and I know you might be thinking, well, nobody went anywhere in 2020, Jennifer. I haven't gone to my eye doctor recently. So I would say when it's safe for you to do so, definitely try to schedule that annual eye exam and make sure that you're using an up-to-date prescription when it comes to your glasses. There are some things to learn about as our eyes age, and that could be things like bifocals or trifocals, different multifocal lenses that could cause a little bit of blurriness or change our vision when we're looking up and down. I always say getting a new pair of glasses feels like getting a new car, right? The first couple days, I'm very careful because I have a feeling I might crash. That comes with new glasses. So if we've changed prescriptions and now we've got to look at a different place in the lens for up close vision or far away vision, give yourself some time to adjust to those new glasses to make sure that they're not going to cause a fall. So we want to stay up to date, and then we also want to be giving ourselves some grace when we get some new glasses to make sure we've got time to adjust to those. And it's tough. I know glasses can be expensive, and some of that eye care can be expensive. So really track and see, what your insurance will allow, and take what they're offering that you can get each year. Alrighty. Just a quick mention on this. I can't answer sort of person-specific questions today, but overall, just if this is something you're aware of, you might want to check in with your doctor about. We want to make sure that our blood pressure is staying nice and steady. If you stand up really quickly and you get, whoa, I'm feeling a little dizzy, that happens on a regular basis or even a couple of times, you might want to check in with your doctor about that. That can be something we call postural hypotension. It means when you stand up real fast, that blood pressure drops and can cause you to get dizzy and fall. So that could be because of some blood pressure medications or some other things that are going on. So let's check in with our doctor about that and then be really thoughtful when we start a new blood pressure medication. So Let's just check about that. And if you know that that's something that does happen to you, when you stand up, you do get a little dizzy. Again, give yourself some time, some grace. Stand up, wait a few moments, and then get started towards your next activity. So let's give ourselves some time to adjust. Okay. A quick mention on some of these. Again, when we started at the top, I mentioned that falls are really a complicated picture and that we've each got our own fall risk. And so one or more of these might apply to you and contribute to your fall risk. So things like diabetes and arthritis, stroke risk and MS or Parkinson's, chronic pain, and even depression or COPD and sleep disorders have been known to contribute to a higher risk of falls. So if you think about reducing our fall risk, it's not just clearing that clutter around the house, right? It's also carefully managing some of these chronic conditions and caring for ourselves and really watching out for ourselves and lowering our fall risk can mean taking charge of some of these other conditions and trying to manage them as best we can. All right, so those chronic fall risks, those chronic conditions, that's something that we might have happening in our lives for years, but there also might be some short-term things that contribute to our fall risk. Something that just happened that one day and just increased our risk of fall enough so that we had a fall incident. But luckily we do have control over quite a few of these, or if some of these happen, we might know that we need to give ourselves extra time to get around because we are at increased risk for a fall. So that could be change in medication. If we're having an illness or infection that is causing us to be unsteady or sleepy or dizzy, pain, lack of sleep, feeling sad or worried, reduced activity level, I would think it would, again, that inactivity causing us to get stiff or to lower our muscle strength, and a change in how we use our cane or walker, or even a move to a new home. That's a big one, right? I think you can probably think of throughout your life at every age, every time we move to a new home, we might bump into the corners of the furniture a little more than we used to. We all definitely get used to our environment, and when we move, that can happen. And even just moving a piece of furniture, right? I had the carpets cleaned recently in my home, and everything was just a little out of its normal place. And so I definitely bumped into a few things during that time. Alrighty. So I've given you a lot to think about. We just went through a whole basket of risk factors, and it can seem a little overwhelming. You might think, well, I just can't change everything I'm doing by tomorrow. And that is perfectly reasonable. So I really recommend that we start small. If there was one or two of those things that raised a red flag for you as I was speaking, the one or two things that popped out to you and you thought, oh, that's me, or ding, ding, light went off. Let's start with those one or two things if we can. Let's start small. So we can start with talking to our pharmacist and our doctor and having them review those medications to make sure that they're not contributing to our fall risk. That's no fault of your own, right? That's if you're doing all you can and then your medications are being risky for you, let's see if we can really get that changed with our doctor and pharmacist. They might be able to just make a small change in your medication routine that can have a big difference in reducing your fall risk. Another thing would be an occupational therapist. Sometimes they're able to come out and do home assessments. Those are probably looking a little different during the pandemic. Not everyone is making home visits right now, but they might be able to do a home video visit with you or schedule one for a little time from now to be able to make that home assessment. And then your doctors might also be able to refer you to physical therapy. That would be wonderful to really address if there's something specific within your body that is causing you to have a fall risk. They can really work with you to make that stronger. I mentioned that I've got some weak ankles from some past injuries. They can work with me to really strengthen that part of my body to help even me out and make sure that it's not increasing my fall risk. Okay, so let's do a little checkup, shall we? We are going to do this together. If after I read all those risk factors, you would still like a real personalized list of what you can do to decrease your fall risk. One thing you can visit is the Ncoa Falls Free Checkup, and it is a quiz. We love an online quiz, right? Online quizzes can be, you know, see which astrological sign each means, you know, what type of pizza you should eat tonight. But this one's a much better online quiz, and I'm going to bring up the website here. And make sure that you can see that. All righty. So this is the National Council on Aging Falls Free Checkup, kind of our name of our presentation here today. Christine, you want to let me know real quick if you can see the Falls Free Checkup?
I can.
Oh, great, good. Okay, so Falls Free Checkup here is from our National Council on Aging, who I have to tell you just refreshed their website into this lovely teal and gray motif. I'm loving it. And it's full of wonderful resources, including this Falls Free Checkup. And it is a 12-question quiz that we can take to talk about our risk of falling. So we can answer these 12 questions, and in the end, it will email our results to us. And then we can choose whether or not we want to do anything with those email results. We could share them with our doctor or with our household or with our family that helps care for us, or we can just think about them ourselves and see if there's anything we want to act on. So I'm going to show you these 12 questions real quick, and I'm going to take the quiz. So I have fallen in the last year. Yes, I have. Why it matters. So it shares with me with each of these questions why that topic matters. Okay. I use or have been advised to use a cane or walker to get around safely. No, that doesn't apply to me, but it's going to still tell me why it's important. So sometimes I feel unsteady when I am walking. No, but here's why it matters. Okay, it talks about balance. I steady myself by holding on to furniture when walking at home. Let's say yes. Right? Tells me that that's a sign of poor balance. That's really interesting because that might be something that you don't even realize that you're doing. Do you steady yourself by holding on to furniture when walking at home? That's interesting. Okay, next question. I am worried about falling. Yes, right. That's a lot of why, you might be here with us today at this presentation if you know that you are worried about falling. Right? That does show that we are at increased risk for a fall. I need to push with my hands to stand up from a chair. Yes. Okay, what it's not asking out there is, do I, my little cousin told me I make noises when I stand up. That's something we all do as we age, right? We give a little oof as we stand. All right, I have some trouble stepping up onto a curb. No, okay, talks about leg muscles. I often have to rush to a toilet. Okay, we talked before how rushing can be something that can certainly put us at risk, especially at night. Okay, I have lost some feeling in my feet. I'm going to say no, but that's an interesting risk factor, right? Some folks that have neuropathy and numbness in their feet, that can cause stumbles and lead to falls. I know I'm going through these very fast, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is to take this quiz and get your results. I take a medicine that sometimes makes me feel lightheaded or more tired than usual. No. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm on question 11 of 12. I take medicine to help me sleep or improve my mood. No. Why it matters. Okay. Last question, I often feel sad or depressed. Well, are they asking about normal years or 2020 years? I think that's something we can all look at these days, but let's say yes. All right, so just like that, check your risk for falling. It says I have 6 points. If you scored 4 points or more, you may be at risk for falling. Find out how to reduce your risk by reading our tips here. Enter your email below to get a copy of your falls-free checkup report you can share with your doctor or family. So this just goes to you, it doesn't go to anybody else, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to share it. Okay, so jennifer.rubin@dignityhealth.org, there we go. And I'm going to click submit. Okay, and just like that, it's going to email my results to me. And I can decide what I would like to do with it after that. So congratulations, you have completed your falls-free checkup. We have sent your results to the email you shared. Okay, so I just wanted to share that because that's something you can go through personally. Today, we're really talking about a lot of general tips, and I'd love for you to have something that is more personal to you. So that is something that you can go through on your own. So it's the Ncoa Falls Free Checkup. Again, we're going to email you the link to that when we're done here. But that's just a really great resource to share. You can share it with your friends and family. You can share the link, not necessarily your results, but you can share the link with your friends and family. All right. Okay, Christine, are we back on our slideshow here?
Yes, I see if a fall occurs.
Great, okay. All righty, with all of that said, we do our best to prevent those falls before they happen. There's a lot we can do, we have a lot of control over it, but falls do happen, right? People of every age fall. Little kids fall all the time. People of every age fall. We just know that as we age, we are at increased risk for injury when we fall. Our bones and muscles may not be as strong, so when we hit the ground, we're more likely to be injured than those little guys when they fall. Those little guys, they just practically bounce right back up. But for us, if we fall, let's take a moment. This is something we have all seen. You have been out and about and you have probably witnessed someone fall. So let's take these things into mind for not just for us, but for them as well. If you do see a friend or family member fall or even a stranger, first thing we all want to do, let's check for injury. Okay, we're down there on the ground, and you know what? That's an okay place to be. Let's be there for a moment or two. It's not where we intended to be. It's not where we wanted to be, but we're down. Let's stay here for a moment and check everything out. First, let's do a little self-check, head to toe, and see if we are injured. And if so, let's call for help if needed. My question for you would be, how are you going to call for help if you fall? Personally, I live on my own, and so I carry my cell phone on me. I can put it in my pocket, in the pocket of my bathrobe, whatever it might be. I carry my cell phone on me to call for help. Some of us might have some of those medical alert services. That's a little necklace or a watch or some other way to call for help. Or you might live with someone else in the house that could call for help for you. But let's be thoughtful about how are we going to call for help. And then if we need to, let's seek medical attention, right? We might need to call for that next level of help. We might need to call 911 if we have hit our head. Okay? Head injuries are no joke, especially if we are on some sort of blood thinners or anything that's going to cause us to bleed. We really want to call for help if needed. If we don't feel that it's a life-threatening injury, if we feel it's just a mild injury, we can call our doctor and schedule a checkup. We can also look around and see if there's any safety hazards that are going to cause us to not be able to get up safely or to get away from the situation safely. Maybe it could be whatever we tripped over or wet floor, something like that. And then also too, if this is something that is a problem for you, if you do have a severe problem getting up off the ground, our physical therapist can really show us how to do that. They can show us how to get up next to a piece of furniture and to just get from the floor to the furniture, right? We don't have to stand straight up. We can just get up onto the couch or the chair, something like this gal in the photo there. A lot of times if we see someone fall, we want to be helpful, right? That's our first instinct, is to go and, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, can I help you? And a lot of folks will just grab us by the arms and try to lift us up. And I want you to feel okay about saying, give me just a moment. Let me sit here for just a moment and do a little self-check. And then, especially if we've injured our arm, we don't want them yanking on our arms. So it's okay to say, thank you so much. You know, can you give me just a moment to get my bearings here? And then let's try to get up. A great thing to do might be to bring someone a chair and help them sit on the chair instead of expecting them to stand up and walk away after they've had a fall. All right. Okay, so with all of that said, let's talk about some ways to implement some of those changes. In the Yolo County area, we found out about a few resources you have available for you. Those are listed over on the Yolo Healthy Aging website. That's a great place to go. They've got all kinds of wonderful information there. And they list some local helpers. We've got the Davis Oddfellows, we've got the Woodland Kiwanis, and the Yolo County Housing Rehab Program are all places that we can ask about some of those home modifications. Things like those grab bars. We love grab bar. Those grab bars in the bathroom, get in and out of the shower or the tub. These are great places to ask for some of those changes. Some of the railings along the hallways or the stairs, some ramps, things like that, that'll help your house age with you. Okay, and if I leave you with one thing, if someone asks you tonight, if you get on a call with friends or family and they say, what do you do today? Well, I went to a webinar about fall prevention. All right, what did you learn? She told us to move more, to keep in motion so we can stay in motion. We may have to get creative during the pandemic. It may not look the same. It could just be a quick walk around the neighborhood or even a walk around the house. I have personally taken a walk around a kitchen island a couple of times during the pandemic. But we just want to move more. We want to keep moving so we can stay moving and keep our muscle strength up so we can keep our strength in balance. Okay, so just before I leave you with a few more resources, I wanted to see if there was any questions or things you would like to share with your neighbors, any resources or ideas you want to share with your neighbors, or questions from me. We can't get into individual health conditions at this point. Those would be a good question for your doctor, but any general fall prevention questions we can answer. Christine, do you see anything you'd like to share?
There has been nothing typed so far.
Okay, I will say one of the classes I teach is called A Matter of Balance, and it's mostly a fall prevention discussion class because we do learn some from the curriculum, but I will say that older adults learn the most from each other. You have the life experience, you have done some of that problem solving about preventing falls, and so I really encourage you to talk and share about this topic with your friends and family because they have some problem solving that maybe you haven't thought of yet. All right. All righty, if we're not seeing any questions at this time, we'll have a little more. Oh, sure, Simone.
Yeah, this is Simone from Del Oro. I just wanted to acknowledge that there was a recommendation in the chat that said that, you know, it can really help to have a Fitbit or a timer to help remind you to get up and move at more intervals. So just, you know, be like, I have heard this before that some people just they're not even aware of how sedentary they are, right? So using technology just to get those reminders in to get up and move.
Absolutely. We love a timer. I love timers for a lot of reasons. Before we all had timers on our phones, we had kitchen timers. And when I worked at the fire department, we would encourage everybody to carry that kitchen timer around with them so you wouldn't forget that you had something on the stove. But we can also apply that to us too. You know, sometimes we get lost in what we're doing. We get lost in that puzzle or that sewing project, or even in good old Netflix that just keeps playing the next episode. But yeah, it would be great to set a reminder to get up and move every once in a while. Yeah, the Apple Watches remind you of that, don't they? Hey, I haven't moved in a while. Good. All right.
Awesome.
So, the last couple of resources that Simone's going to send out to you, I mentioned the CDC STEADI Program. That's a wonderful program full of resources, including that home safety checklist. Also, the National Council on Aging, that's where we find the Falls Free Checkup. And last but not least is our friends at AARP. They have a home fit guide. This is like that home safety checklist expanded. This is the super version of the home safety checklist. It's a whole guide. It's almost like a booklet that really goes in depth on our home fit guide. How do we make our homes fit us? Our bodies and our needs have aged, and so our homes need to fit us in the way we live now. So the AARP Home Fit Guide does a wonderful job of discussing that. So we do have time for a few more questions, but I just wanted to say thank you all for your time and attention. A lot of these great resources we shared today are from the American Occupational Therapy Association and the American Physical Therapy Association, working together with our wonderful National Council on Aging. And before we get away too, I just wanted to give Simone a chance to share some of her resources.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that wonderfully informative talk. I'm always surprised at, how much power we have to prevent falls. I forget that. And when I was caregiving for my mom, this was like one of the major issues that we ran into. She really struggled with balance. So thank you for all of these tips and these resources today. We only have a few minutes left in our time together, but I do want to spend a little bit of time, getting feedback from you all. So I'm going to post a feedback survey, and it is 10 questions. If you would just take a couple minutes while I kind of cover resources at Del Oro, I would greatly appreciate it. We would greatly appreciate it. This feedback helps us to plan future education and training like today's webinar, and just gives us a better sense of how we're doing. So if you can just take a moment to fill this out, we would greatly appreciate that. I'm going to leave it up for a few minutes. And just to confirm, Jennifer, can you see the feedback survey?
I can. Also, I'm a host, so I can't.
Yes. I will not make you take the feedback survey. I just want to make sure it's visible. Awesome. Okay. So let me go ahead and turn my camera on. And let me talk to you a little bit about Del Oro Caregiver Resource Center. So essentially, we are we're a nonprofit agency, and our mission is to support caregivers throughout the caregiving journey. We happen to be part of a statewide system of caregiver resource centers. So we're one of 11, and we serve Northern California's Gold Country counties, including Yolo County in the greater Sacramento area. And our services include things like, our basic services include things like information and referral, education and training. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat. Thank you everyone for coming today. We appreciate you. We offer more specialized services as well if you become a client of ours once we establish eligibility. So things like respite care. We know how difficult this job is, and we want to make sure that you have time to take a break and your loved one is cared for and, not left alone and at risk of falling or at risk of injuring themselves in another way. We also provide short-term counseling and legal and financial consultation as well for clients. And so this kind of suite of services is intended to help caregivers in particular, who are our clients, just achieve better well-being as they're providing care, and therefore improve the well-being of the person that they're caring for. So our hope is, again, that this helps everyone who's involved in the care exchange. And the more you know about fall safety and prevention, our hope is that the better you can provide care for your loved one and for yourself. There's nothing worse than a caregiver that's out of commission, right? If you fall, then what happens? If you have any questions, I know the slide, I can't tell if the slide is still up, but if you are interested in learning more about Del Oro, you can give us a call at 916-728-9333, or you can visit us on our website at www.deloro, all one word, DELORO.org. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a moment. And Christine would like to share an upcoming opportunity at City of West Sac. So let me see if I can find this.
All right.
First,
I'm going to go ahead, if it's okay, and I'll stop recording because I know this class is going to take place on Friday and will be, might not be relevant by the time somebody watches, but just
thank you, Jennifer.
Those that are watching the recording, thank you so much for joining us.
Let me talk to you a little bit about Del Oro Caregiver Resource Center. So essentially, we are we're a nonprofit agency, and our mission is to support caregivers throughout the caregiving journey. We happen to be part of a statewide system of caregiver resource centers. So we're one of 11, and we serve Northern California's Gold Country counties, including Yolo County in the greater Sacramento area. And our services include things like, our basic services include things like information and referral, education and training. I'm seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. We appreciate you. We offer more specialized services as well if you become a client of ours once we establish eligibility. So things like respite care. We know how difficult this job is, and we want to make sure that you have time to take a break and your loved one is cared for and, not left alone and at risk of falling or at risk of injuring themselves in another way. We also provide short-term counseling and legal and financial consultation as well for clients. And so this kind of suite of services is intended to help caregivers in particular, who are our clients, just achieve better well-being as they're providing care, and therefore improve the well-being of the person that they're caring for. So our hope is, again, that this helps everyone who's involved in the care exchange. And the more you know about fall safety and prevention, our hope is that the better you can provide care for your loved one and for yourself. There's nothing worse than a caregiver that's out of commission, right? If you fall, then you know what happens. If you have any questions, I know the slide, I can't tell if the slide is still up, but if you are interested in learning more about Del Oro, you can give us a call at 916-728-9333, or you can visit us on our website at www.deloro, all one word, DELORO.org.